Hey guys, welcome back to B&B Farms, where our goal is to try and live with our land and not just on it. As you can see, we're down at the sawmill again today. We've got more of that yellow poplar on the Woodland Mills HM 126, and we're going to be milling some nominal dimension 2x4s. In our last video, at least I think it was our last video, we talked about the need to gather some more material, some building material, and let it air dry over the winter so we can use it for next year's projects. This is a continuation of that. The log we have on here right now is just over 10 feet long. This is the butt log. It is 20.5 inches on the big end and 17.5 on the small end. Curiously, the pith is only about 1/4 inch off from end to end, so we're not going to use a toe board. We're just going to, mill it as is. Again, our goal is to get nominal dimension 2x4s. Those are 1.5 by 3.5. I'm still getting a lot of questions about how we use the Woodland Mills log scales to determine our cuts. So I'll try to pay a little more attention to that as we cut through this log and show you guys how we do it. All right, that's enough talking. Let's start milling. I want to go ahead and drop down one more 1.5 inch increment. All right, so there's a total of 3 inches taken off of this log, in 1.5 inch increments. We made 2 slabbing cuts. You can see that beautiful yellow poplar down in there. So we're going to rotate this log 180 degrees, or I'm going to try to rotate this log 180 degrees. I bet that's not going to be easy, but we'll find out. Yeah. Lucky it's poplar. Not too awfully heavy. Woo! Wouldn't want to do that all day. How many nominal 2x4s are in this log? That's 1.5 inch by 3.5 inch. Same size 2x4 you'd buy at Lowe's or Menards or Home Depot. We're going to find out. All right, check that out, guys. We've got 2 of those slabbing cuts made. Now we need to rotate that log another 90 degrees, make our last 2, and we should be getting really close to start peeling off some lumber off that yellow poplar. That's going to have to wait, guys. Today is Halloween, and Becky and I are going to go into town and pass out some candy for the trick-or-treaters. But don't you worry, no time's going to pass at all. I'll be right back here in the morning, pick up where we left off. You guys hang in there. I'll see you soon. Well, all right, guys, it's the next morning and we're back. I told you it wouldn't take very long. I think we're going to pick right up where we left off yesterday. I think before we do that, though, we're going to swap out blades, do a quick blade change on the HM 126. So let's do that now. It hadn't got any lighter. You can see once again that we are using that center pointer. We are using the 1.5 inch scale. Now, keep in mind that this dimension we're cutting now will be our 3.5 inch dimensions once we get down to a cant. So it's easy to get confused and cut the wrong way, so be mindful of that when you start turning your log different directions. You got 2 different dimensions there you got to work with. Yep, she's a little heavy. All right, guys, you can see that for this last slabbing cut, I've got that center pointer on the 3.5 inch scale. From this point on, we're going to be cutting 3.5 inch dimensions. Actually, I think we might rotate this log 90 degrees and take 1 more 1.5 inch cut off, but we'll see. I'm going to bring you guys down to the small end of this cant and let you see what it looks like since we have all 4 of our slabbing cuts made. You can see there's still quite a bit of bark on this corner, runs all the way down this cant, and if I step over to the other side, it's the same way, quite a bit of bark. But the part that probably I think is the worst, it's going to get dark down here, is at the bottom. Can you guys see this bark right here? We've got a couple of options. This dimension from here to here is set in 3.5 inch increments, just like this dimension is set in 1.5 inch increments. So I could just go ahead and drop down and start cutting 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches, and go at it that way. Because remember, like we've talked in the past, we're not really concerned with, super great lumber. If I get 2 good faces, 2 faces on a 2x4 that I can nail to, that's good enough for most of the projects we're building. If we were cutting for somebody else or milling something that had to look nice, yeah, we'd take greater pains. But right now, we are after the maximum amount of usable boards from one log. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is I want to flip this log another 90 degrees, and I'm going to make another 1.5 inch cut right here. That won't disturb our 3.5 inch dimension this way, and since we're cutting in 1.5 inch increments, we'll still be dead on this way. And that'll clean up a little bit of this bark. It won't get rid of all of it, but it should help things a little bit. Let me know down in the comments if that's how you other sawyers would do it. Would you just go ahead and cut the 3.5 inch dimensions and worry about it later, or would you turn the log and cut another 1.5 inches to try to clean it up? I'd be interested in hear what you had to say. right, guys, we've got that cant up on the mill. We're ready to start cutting 3.5-inch mini cants out of it. I did take that 1.5-inch slab off. You guys saw me do that. And off camera, I rotated that cant another 180 degrees and took an additional 1.5 inches off the other face. So you can see what we've got left. We've got a little bit of bark right in here, but it stops right here. That's not going to be that big a deal, I don't believe. And for that matter, 8 feet is about right here. So we could get a good 8-foot board off of it. So let's get the mill fired up and let's cut some 3.5-inch mini cants off of this yellow poplar main cant. So we've turned that one big cant into 4 smaller cants. We've turned them up on their 3.5-inch dimension. So now we're going to start cutting down in 1.5-inch increments. We'll get 4 boards with each cut. We'll see how many we get out of this. There they are, guys. There's 16 right here. I think there's another 8 over on the tractor already, so that's going to make 24. Let me get these off of here, kind of organize them on the tractor, and then I'll show you what we got, and then we'll do the flitches and see how many 2x4s we can get out of those. We are all finished up with that log. Remember, it was 22 inches on the big end and 17 and some change on the small end, 10-foot yellow poplar. What did we end up with? Well, first, let's take a look at the scrap pile, what we have left over. All this you see right here is what's left over from that log. Here's where we kind of fiddled around with those flitches, getting all we could out of it. Here's some of our larger slabbing cuts that we got. I don't think that's too bad, guys. I mean, there's really nothing left here. I'm really happy with that. But obviously the most important figure is how many boards did we get? Let me show you. We ended up with 26 really nice, let me move these out of the way to separate them, 26 really nice clear span, nominal dimension 10-foot 2x4s. That in itself I don't think is too bad. These 3 over here, like we spoke earlier, they have a couple of good nailing faces to them. I'm going to count those as acceptable. So that would put us to 29. And over here is some of the stuff we cleaned up out of those flitches. You can see that there is a lot of bark on that. But see this yellow line right here? This is 8 feet. I can cut these 3 boards into clear span, 8 or very nearly clear span. This one's got a little bit of bark on it right there. Very nearly clear span 8-foot 2x4s. And this one right here is the 6-foot line. I can get a 6-foot 2x4 out of that. So, you know, that's going to put us up over 30. So by my calculation, that puts us up to 33 usable pieces of nominal 2x4. Mostly 10-foot. I think there were 3 8-footers and 1 6-footer. I'm very pleased with that. And I think that's going to wrap up this video, guys. I'm going to head to the house and get some Red Diamond Sweet Iced Tea. You guys know the drill. Remember to get outside and enjoy what's around you. It is beautiful out here. Be nice to one another. If you like what you saw, subscribe, leave us a comment. It really does help the channel. Guys, I'll see you on the next video.